What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Life Coach Zach podcast. Today, I have a special guest with me. I got Kara, who is also known as the Playful Warrior. And I really wanted her to come on the podcast and ask her a lot of questions because last week, I did a solo episode on channeling your inner child and how much value I receive just from running around in the grass and throwing the football with my friends. And I talk a lot about how it helps me bring out more of my creativity as a writer, as a podcaster, as a life coach, as a realtor. It's important for me to always be thinking outside the box. So I want to welcome Kara. Kara, how you doing today?
I'm doing so good. Thanks for having me, Zach. Excited to chat with you.
Absolutely. Glad you were able to take time out of your busy schedule to hop on the podcast today. So Kara is the founder and chief fun officer of the Playful Warrior and the creator of Wild and Worthy. She's also a play and mindset coach, and she's going to help you, and we're going to talk a lot about, how to heal your inner child through the power of play and neuroscience so you can overcome perfectionism, self-doubt, and recover your playful, creative self. So, Kara, why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you stepped into this version of the Playful Warrior?
Yeah, for sure. So about 3.5 years ago, I had no idea I would be doing this. I was working in the corporate world and public relations for 10 years, and I always felt really stuck and really, really miserable, but had no idea what I wanted to do. And so I had already been doing inner child work in therapy, but it was always so heavy. It was always about reliving trauma and going through all these things and just reliving it. And it just felt like there had to be more to life than that. And so I had someone recommend, why don't you try playing? And for me, I didn't know what that meant as an adult. Like, I was a competitive dancer. I was really competitive when it came to pretty much anything, like even cornhole or board games. But for me, it was always about winning. It wasn't about enjoying the present moment. And so the idea of returning to play, in the sense that returning to the present moment, to your curiosity, to your spontaneity, was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a lot of resistance around it, right? I was really fearful of judgment, what I might look like. Am I going to look silly? Am I going to be abandoned or rejected? And because I had so much resistance around play, I knew it was really important for my journey. So I started studying the science behind play and got really excited by how actually important it was for us. And was also just so surprised that we are so conditioned out of it when it is so important for, like you said, our creativity, our adaptability, our brain health, our mental health, physical health, everything, our relationships, so much. And so I went on this mission myself of, healing my inner child with play, starting to play again, noticing I was so much more happier, healthier, creative, all the things, and was like, okay, I need to bring this to the world, because also I was going through a dark night of the soul at the time, and I had serious relationship end. I had ended up losing my job. I was going through health issues. And like, what really got me through that hard time was actually playing with my inner child. So
Right.
thing that sounded so fluffy and almost like stupid for some people, but it was like, wow, this is actually so powerful. And because it was so helpful for me, I needed to bring it to more people. And that's exactly what I've done.
Amazing. I love that. Great. So, when I think about how we can leverage play to be more of a high performer, or to live a happier and healthier life, or just maybe to take some stress and anxiety off our mind, I like to bridge the gap between that and science. But for all the listeners out there that aren't very science and math minded, and they just want to figure out how they can learn from this podcast episode and apply it to their life, what are some simple ways that people can step into more of their playful warrior and do some more playful things that'll help them live a better life?
Yeah, so the first thing I'm going to say always surprises people, but try it. You will see how it's so powerful. So for many of us, we avoid art if we're not good at art by like societal standards. We might be like, oh, well, I'm not an artist, so I'm not going to do that. But that was exactly how I felt. But then what I started doing 3 years ago was drawing with a blindfold on. So I would the blindfold takes away that critical factor of your conscious mind that's judging what you're creating, judging if it's good enough, so that you can learn to be in the present moment without shaming yourself, without judging yourself, taking that pressure off. So that is one really fun way to start getting connected to art. And it's amazing because when you do things like that, you will notice unconsciously solutions will come up. So that happens during play, just like when you're in the shower, some people get their best ideas, or when they're on a walk,
Right.
same things happens with play because you're taking that pressure off, you're giving yourself a
Mm-hmm.
break. And so it is wild. Like when I am doing my blindfolded drawing, I get some of my best ideas because that pressure is off. And it's also fun and it's silly and it's this chance to laugh at yourself, which is so important for health, right? Like laughter is the best medicine.
Absolutely. And it's no surprise that kind of funny, silly activities like drawing with a blindfold on or skipping a rock or throwing the football is healthy for us because, we live in this daily redundant, continual mental chronic stress, whether it's bills or work or relationships or anything else that's on our mind. And we think about it right before we go to sleep and we think about it as soon as we wake up. And from a lot of books that I've read, whether it's Dr. Joe Dispenza or Bruce Lipton or Rhonda Burns talking about the law of attraction, it's really important for us to just take a deep breath, take a step back, right? Acknowledge that, we're on this rock spinning in outer space. Eventually, we're not going to be here anymore. There's a lot of things like politics that don't really matter. There's a laundry list of things that don't actually matter. And, I'm not saying politics isn't important, but for our health and our happiness, what CNN and Fox News is talking about today doesn't really have a direct impact on our life. So I can definitely see why channeling our inner child and playing more can benefit us a lot. But now I want to pivot more towards the science and like the facts on how our biology or our physiology change. So can you scratch the surface a little bit on the neuroscience and physically how it changes our mind and our body?
Yeah. So with neuroplasticity, what's really exciting is we can rewire our brain at any time. And I know you mentioned Joe Dispenza. He is so great for talking about all that. But what's really cool is that when we're actually playing, we are changing our neural pathways. And when we play and our neural pathways change, it actually even imprints in our brain further because we are doing it joyfully, which is so, so cool. So when we are making changes playfully, we are doing them even more so than without play, which is really cool. And so play, not only is it great for our mental health and our physical health, there's a lot of science around relationships too in play. Like I know for me, I've had relationships die because they just weren't playful enough. And when we're playful with a partner or partners, you get to meet that other side of people. It's vulnerable, it's silly, you connect with them more. So there's a lot of science behind playfulness in relationships. And the key to long lasting relationships and studies has actually been playfulness, which is so cool as well, which I love working with couples to and partnerships to see kind of, yeah, how it just enhances that intimacy, especially during quarantine, during the pandemic when I was doing it. And like, it was so monotonous. Like you were saying, like so often we just do the same routine over and over. And it's like, how can we add some spontaneity and some excitement to it?
Yeah. So for the people listening that are going to apply this to their life, they're not just going to listen, they're going to actually do the stuff we're talking about, and they're going to incorporate some more play into their life. Is it something that they can do every single day? Is it something that there's a certain time of day maybe they can play? Like, what are some advice on like time management skills and channeling our inner child?
Yeah, so often one of the blocks for people is like, I don't have time to play. I'm so busy. It's at the bottom of my priority list. How do I add it to my day? So it's like, okay, let's start reframing what play is. Play is actually a mindset. It's not so much an activity. So it's like, we can bring play to work. Like maybe you are brainstorming wherever you work and you're trying to come up with new solutions. Like add some play to that. So like, for example, I know for me, like when I was in that environment and you're like hustling, you're trying to come up with stuff, there's all that pressure. So it's like start coming up with silly solutions in a brainstorm that actually make no sense at all. So then you're laughing, you're having fun with your coworkers, but then because you've taken off that pressure, it's like you're in a lighter energy now and you're more open to solutions. And I know that helped me so much in business, like adding play was so amazing. Also, maybe you're just like going to get a coffee or you're going to get tea, whatever you drink. And on the way, just do like a little twirl, start inserting play throughout the day. After this call, I might do like a shaking meditation to just like get in my body. It's like you can weave it in these small moments. So it doesn't have to be like you need an hour to do it.
Absolutely. It's funny too. I saw this video the other day. Uh, the audio is a little weird. One second. I'm kind of echoing. Hello, hello. I'm going to run with it. We'll edit it out. It's pretty ironic because the other day I was watching this video on Instagram of this little girl. She was probably 3, 4 years old, and she walks up to this big puddle in the grass, and she has her rain boots on, and she just starts playing in the puddle, and she's jumping up and down, and she's splish splashing, and she's having the time of her life. And her dad is wearing normal shoes, and he's kind of like leaning over the puddle, holding her hand so he doesn't, get his feet wet. And his daughter's like, come on, come on. And clearly the dad is very reluctant to jump in the water because he doesn't want to get his socks and his feet all wet and things like that. And eventually, obviously, he ends up jumping in the puddle with her, and he just puts the biggest smile on his face. And you can just see how happy he is in the moment, how joyful he is in the moment, how much his heart is just being full with inner peace. And that was just like really, it was really inspiring for me because, as kids, we're so curious. When we're 4, 5, up until we're like 9 and 10, we're like curious about everything. The one word we say the most is why? Why this? Why is the sky blue? Why cars this? And long story short, I guess my point here is, our teachers and other authoritative figures, whether it's our parents or our cousins or older aunts and uncles, are telling us, hey, don't do that, or hey, that's not good. Watch out, be careful. And we lose that sense of our inner child, right? So tell us more about that. I know you're familiar with some stories, and I know you're familiar with how that, changes our environment is so, it affects a lot of the way we see and perceive the world. So I would think, and I'm assuming, it's important to rebirth and bring that inner child and that curiosity, I guess the word I'm looking for, bring back that curiosity into our lives.
Totally. Yeah, like you mentioned, as young kids, we are conditioned out of play. We are taught that we need to grow up. It's time to get serious. This is the way to do it. Follow a textbook. So we are taught to really leave our unique sense of self-expression that is like seeing the world with wonder, that's wanting to explore. We learn that's no longer acceptable. So like you said, we need to rebirth. We need to unlearn all of that. And that brought up, yeah, it's so funny. So many of the adults I work with are so scared to get messy because immediately, like, say we're going to finger paint or do something silly like that, they're immediately like, oh my God, that's so messy. And they're just thinking about the cleanup because they're not in the present moment. We're so in our brains and we're not in the moment. So then it's so funny because like that man or the father in the puddle, once they start finger painting, they're just like, I'm free, like liberation. It feels so good. And it's amazing how something like so simple like finger painting can actually reconnect you with your inner child, to give yourself that permission that I'm like worthy of playing. I don't need to be someone else I'm not. I don't need to perform or compete or prove my worth. I get to just be. And there's something so healing about that actually for your self-worth too. Because ultimately as kids, we weren't trying to prove ourselves. Like as young kids, right? We were just like so in the moment. If we want to dance, we're going to dance. We don't care how we look. We don't care like it's my body having body rolls, like, right? We're not thinking about that. We're just like so in the moment. So for my goal is to get people back to that and just finding those moments of play and spontaneity where, yeah, we're not proving ourselves because it's exhausting.
Right. And so you work with clients one-on-one, and I see on your website you also have a group coaching program. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my group coaching program, Wild and Worthy, is really about unlearning perfectionism, this need of proving yourself and self-doubt so that you can recover that creative, playful inner child within you. And we have an amazing community of people all over the world. It is so incredible. So you'll meet lifelong connections. We do deep mindset work as well and rewiring your subconscious mind for self-worth. And then we actually play live. So it's one of the unique programs where you actually get to play and in that moment heal that fear of judgment or fear of being seen or taking up too much space, and also having fun doing it because healing can be so heavy. So it's so important we add fun because also you even mentioned law of attraction before, and like play is so important in manifesting in the law of attraction and feeling good, and that's really what we need to be prioritizing every day.
Absolutely. Yeah, on your website, theplayfulwarrior.com is where people can check out your group coaching and your one-on-one coaching. And I also see under your fun facts about me that you've been to 42 countries. So tell us, what is your favorite country to visit?
Colombia has been my favorite country. It is so incredible. It is so playful and fun. Everyone is so warm. So it's so not what you've seen like in the media or anything like that. Yeah, I was just like dancing my way through Colombia, meeting the locals, having the best time. It's so beautiful as well. The food is incredible. So highly recommend Colombia. And specifically San Andres and Providencia. They are two beautiful islands that most people don't know about. They're very not touristy, but they are the most beautiful places I've ever been.
Amazing. What's your second favorite place you visited?
Ooh, New Zealand.
Oh, wow. What did you do there?
In New Zealand, I actually went to Queenstown, which is like the adventure capital of the world. And we did, I didn't bungee jump, but it's called like canyon swinging, where you get dropped in a canyon and then you swing for like hundreds of feet.
Talk about playing. Wow.
Yeah.
Jumping off 1,000-foot rocks sounds like playing to me.
Yeah, that was definitely play. Very scary, but sometimes play is hard for people, right? It can scare people to get out of their comfort zone and try.
So is there anything else that we left out? Is there anything you want to share with the audience? Some practical ways? I know we, scratched the surface and things, and you brought a ton of value on how they can channel their inner child, open up their creativity, live a healthier. I mean, at the end of the day, if you just play more, you will live a healthier life, physically and mentally. So I think the message is really clear, but what's one last piece of advice you want to leave the audience with today?
So I get a lot of people coming to me who say it's not possible for me. I'm just not playful. I was never playful. And to that, I say it is possible for you. Like, I actually really struggled with play a few years ago. Like I said, I was good at competition, but I wasn't good at just like silly movement or like dancing like a bird or something like that. Like, I had no desire to ever do that. And so if that is you and you have that resistance, just know it is so possible for you. Keep going. Imagine yourself maybe talking with your inner child, like visualizing little you, and think, okay, maybe if this isn't for me, it's for little me. That really helped me start being more silly too. It was like, okay, I want to give myself the childhood I felt like I didn't have because I grew up so fast personally. And so that's really helped me connect to play as well. So if anyone's feeling like, oh, this just isn't for me, know that it is possible.
Amazing. That's great. Well, to all the people that are listening on Audible, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, you can head over to theplayfulwarrior.com. That's spelled exactly how it sounds. And if you're watching on YouTube, thanks so much for sticking around until the very end. I'm going to drop links to Kara's website, her group coaching, and her one-on-one coaching as well. Kara, it was a pleasure having you on today. I'm glad this worked out for both of us, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was so fun.
What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for being a loyal listener of the podcast. If you haven't already gotten my first book, Live Better Now, it's officially out on Amazon.com. I want to give a huge thank you to everyone that's already purchased the book, reviewed the book, or shared it with friends and family. It really, really means a lot to me. Thank you guys so much. Go ahead and visit Amazon.com and purchase Live Better Now.